Chapter 4, Who Will Rule Egypt? Caliph Saladin was the 14th and last caliph of the Fatimid dynasty, and the 24th Imam of Hafizi Ismailism. He reigned from 1160 AD to 1171 AD. Coming to the throne as a child, he spent his reign as a puppet in the hands of various strong men who occupied the vizierate, and was a mostly helpless bystander to the collapse of the Fatimid Caliphate. In the course of his reign, both the Crusader King Amalric and the Sunni Syrian ruler Nuruddin were in power struggle for controlling Egypt, the enfeeblement of the Fatimid state to advance their own claims on the country. For a while, the Vizier Shah tried to play both sides off against one another. Now 2 years have passed since Shirkuh defeated Frankish King Amalric in the year 1168 AD, who now again attacks the people of Egypt in collusion with Vizier Shah. The people hiding in their houses heard the sound of horses and men in armor first. Then the screams and cries began. Outside in the narrow streets of Bilbais, everyone was trying to run away from danger, but it was hopeless. Amalric's knights on their war horses were everywhere. Their bright swords were red with the blood, not just of the soldiers fighting them, but of the civilian people in the town too. No one was safe, and at the end of that terrible day, the streets were silent and bloody. After the Franks killed so many people near Cairo, Caliph Saladin was helpless. So the Caliph sent a secret letter to Nuruddin. He wrote, "I no longer think that Vizier Shah is loyal to the Egyptians. He is too friendly with the Franks, and all the money that Shah pays to King Amalric does nothing to stop Amalric's knights killing my people. They want all the country. Then, when they have it, they will use all our gold to make their castles and armies even stronger. Shah was ready to give them anything as long as he can be the strongest man in Egypt. We are all in great danger. Please help us." Panic-stricken Nuruddin called in Yusuf and said, "Find General Shirkuh." Yusuf went to the old general sadly. When his uncle told him to get ready for another campaign in Egypt, Yusuf said, "By God, even if you give me the whole country, I won't go." He still remembered the terrible siege of Alexandria. But Nuruddin's orders were law to all his men. So in a few short days, the army was on its way to Egypt for the third time. Early in January 1169, after 3 weeks' journey, they marched into Cairo. Everyone was happy to see the Syrians. The Franks left the country without a fight, and the Egyptians felt safe at last. The Caliph said, "Shah is a criminal. He was loyal only to himself, not to Egypt or to me, and now he must die. You must kill him, Yusuf." With Shah's death, Shirkuh was the new vizier. He gave all the beautiful things in Shah's house to the people of Cairo. He was also now the commander of the Egyptian army, but his love of food killed him after only 2 months. One day, halfway through a wonderful meal, he gave a great cry and died. Important men working for the Caliph asked, "Who will be the new vizier? We must find a good man." "We also need a new commander," the Syrian generals said. It was difficult. The Egyptians wanted one of their people as vizier and commander of their army, and Nuruddin's men couldn't work for someone from anywhere but Syria. "I know," said someone, "let's make Yusuf the new vizier. He's only 30, and knows nothing about ruling a country. We'll tell him what to do, and he'll do it." Many agreed that Yusuf was the right man for the job, and so he became both vizier of Egypt and commander of the Syrian and Egyptian armies. Not everyone was happy to see Yusuf in this important job. A few soldiers went to Syria to tell Nuruddin that the new vizier, Yusuf, wanted to take over Egypt. Nuruddin was angry. So, to show that he was loyal to his old commander, Yusuf went with the Caliph and the people to pray for Nuruddin every Friday. When his brother Turan Shah arrived from Syria, Yusuf told him, "It's not easy here. But, thank God, I learned the law from Nuruddin, and how to organize armies from my uncle because we have enemies everywhere, not just the Franks." Yusuf was right. One day, one of his soldiers saw that one of the caliph's men was wearing very strange shoes on his feet when he left the caliph's great house. Inside one of these shoes was a secret letter which Yusuf opened and read. The Egyptians wanted Amalric and his knights to attack Yusuf and the Syrians, but the Franks never saw that letter. In the end the Franks came, but Yusuf and his army were ready for them, and sent them away again without any problems. Yusuf was a careful ruler, and Egypt quickly grew into a strong country under him. He decided that it was wrong to have a rich life, and that it was more important to help people in trouble. So he took a new name, Saladin, which means the good of religion, to show that he wanted to be a good Muslim. And he gave all the expensive presents that people gave him to the Egyptians and to his soldiers. He lived in a small house, and used his money as a vizier to build schools and hospitals. He also made the walls of Cairo stronger, and built a great castle on the Makatam hills. I want the Egyptian people to know that we are on their side, and that we want their country to be strong and safe. Then they will be happy to fight with us against the Franks, he told his Syrian generals. But meanwhile Nuruddin, growing more impatient, more and more angry, since Yusuf was ignoring his requests to return since he enjoyed being in charge as he was young and grew more ambitious, Nuruddin gave him a final warning and wrote a letter which said, "Yusuf, I'm your commander. You're spending all your time ruling a country that doesn't belong to you. You're getting strong and rich with Egypt's gold, but I want you, your new soldiers, and the money that you've won with me, here, to fight the Franks in the Holy Land. Unless you come back to Syria immediately, I'll attack you." Some young men in Saladin's army said, "If the king of Syria comes here, we'll fight him and send him back to his country." But Ayub, Saladin's father, told him, "I'll kill you myself if you go against your commander." Saladin listened and waited. In 1170 Saladin died. His last words were, "Only one thing makes me unhappy: what will happen to my family at the hands of Yusuf, son of Ayub?" Because Nuruddin's son, Salah, was only 11 years old, many people wanted to rule Syria in the boy's name. Then 2 months later, King Amalric of Jerusalem died too. His son, Baldwin, was 13, and was ill with leprosy. Saladin, now 36, saw that it was a good time to move against the Franks, but he needed a bigger army. "If I can teach Nuruddin's son how to be a good ruler while he is still young, and I can rule Syria in his name, then all Muslims will help my soldiers fight for the Holy Land," he thought. But many Syrians were afraid of Saladin. The emirs said, "You go too far, Yusuf. You were just a soldier, and now you want all of Syria. You came from nothing. You are nothing. And we won't listen to you." But Saladin wanted to make Nuruddin's dream of winning back the Holy Land come true. He took Damascus with little trouble. Then he moved on to Aleppo. This was where the young Salah went with his emirs after they saw how quickly Saladin was winning the country. But Aleppo was difficult to take, so Saladin attacked the castle of Azaz first. It fell after 38 days of fighting, and then Aleppo surrendered. The emirs didn't trust Saladin and thought that he really wanted to be king of Syria, so they asked the al-Hashishiyun, as known as assassins in the Western world, a secret order of killers founded by Hassani Sabah, to kill him. They tried twice, while Saladin was asleep, but he was lucky and lived. He decided to fight the al-Hashishiyun in their mountain home, but it wasn't easy. Some of his soldiers said, "We were near Sinan, but the Hashishiyun general has great powers that we can't explain. He looked at us, and we couldn't lift our swords to fight him." One night Saladin made a trap to catch anyone trying to get near him while he was sleeping. In the morning he found some sweet bread near his head. A knife through it held a message saying, "You are under our power." No one could explain how the things got there. Perhaps al-Hashishiyun does have special powers, thought Saladin. We must stop fighting him and his people. No one knew what Saladin and al-Hashishiyun agreed, but the al-Hashishiyun never tried to hurt Saladin again. By the year 1177 AD, most of Syria wanted to help Saladin, who was now 39. Then the news came that the Franks and the people in Byzantium were no longer friends. Saladin felt that perhaps now was the time to start a holy war to take Jerusalem back from the Franks.